Louie T. Welcome to the Command Post Live. You know what it is. Post up and take command. I, of course, am your Commander-in-Chief, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. How y'all doing tonight, man? Feels good to be back talking about the Burgundy and Gold. Day 2 of Mandatory Minis took place today. A number of guys stepped up to the podium once again. I'm enjoying all of the conversation that we're getting from these players. You know, this is something that I talk about all the time, especially this time of the year, because really what's going on the field is of little consequence. So really getting into the mental psyche, figuring out where some of these guys are in their recovery processes is really intriguing to me. And so we'll get into a little bit of that tonight because there are a couple of things I didn't know. I don't know about you. Maybe you guys were a little bit more privy to some of this information than I was, but there are a couple of injuries that we were a little kind of out of the loop with. You know, maybe we, assumed some things and made assumptions about specific injuries that we knew nothing about. And we got clarification on a couple of them, some big ones at that. And so we'll address that tonight. Got a surprise visit from Hall of Fame defensive tackle Warren Sapp at day 2 of Mandatory Minis. That was a sight for sore eyes. Good to see a Hall of Famer out there giving some game to the young fellas. And we'll talk about that a little bit later on tonight. But where we'll start is with a couple of quarterbacks stepping to the podium in day 2 of Mandatory Minis. And you know what? I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna keep it a buck and some change. I forgot all about Sam Howell being on this roster. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm guilty as charged. I got so swept up in the Carson Wentz hoopla, and really looking forward to him proving some of the naysayers wrong and having a big season. And honestly, I'm being selfish here because as a fan, a long-standing suffering fan, I'm ready for this quarterback carousel to end. I'm looking for someone to dead all of that and just put it to rest once and for all and give us a guy that we can count on for the next 5 to 7 years. So Sam Howell, I'm hoping isn't that guy because I want it to be Carson Wentz. Honestly, I don't care who it is. If it was Taylor Heinicke and he put a stranglehold on the position last year and he was the starter going into this season, I'd be fine with that. I just want a guy to do what the Green Bay Packers have done and the Indianapolis Colts have done before this last 2 or 3 year stretch here before they had Andrew Luck and then they had Peyton Manning. I just want to be one of those teams that knows who their quarterback is going to be going into the next year. That's not something that we have to talk about. So I forgot about Sam Howell being on the roster. I'm not gonna lie to you. And so when I saw him, I was like, oh yeah, Sam is on the roster. Hey, how about that? So listening to Sam Howell talk about, the early stages of, becoming a pro, talking about kind of getting his hands around this playbook and kind of digesting it because it is a lot. And Taylor Heinicke, who we'll talk about a little bit later on as he spoke at the podium on day 2 as well, mentioned it's a tough playbook when you first get a hold of it because it's a lot of verbiage. There's a lot of words. And this playbook has a ton of numbers in it. It's a number system as well. So there's a lot to, kind of grasp. But once you get it, you've got it. So he's talking about, learning the nuances of the playbook and getting that down pat. He talked about, coming from more of a spread, tempo offense and also getting the signals from the sidelines and now to a more traditional under center. Now we have a lot of gun in our offense, so I don't want to make it seem as if this offense is under center. You're in a Sean McVay type of system or a Matt LaFleur type system where you're constantly under center or Kyle Shanahan and you're handing it off to the running back and then you're going play action fake and you're turning your back to the defense and it's a 7-step drop. I don't want to make it seem like it's that because that's not what this offense really is. There is a little bit of that, but for the most part, you're in the gun. A lot of this offense is gun-based. A lot of our runs are gun runs. So he talked about, more of a pro-style approach. And he said pretty much the entire North Carolina offense was air raid. So it's all gun. There is no under center. So he's adjusting to that, getting the footwork and the mechanics and the things that come with being under center down to a little bit of a science for him. He talked about the room. That's important when you're talking about a young quarterback, when you're talking about a veteran like Carson Wentz coming into the fold, when you're talking about a guy in Taylor Heinicke that was essentially, for all intents and purposes, your starter a season ago, not being the starter any longer. And I thought it was pretty interesting what Heinicke said at his press conference. We'll talk about that, as I mentioned, here in a second. But, when you put that dynamic all into one room, all of those different dynamics, I should say, into one room, it's almost like a big melting pot, right? So you've got a guy that started, 16 games for you, 15 games for you last year, played pretty much 16 games, but started 15 of them for you last year. He's no longer your starter, but he's still in the room. He's the only holdover from the season previous. Then you bring in Carson Wentz in a high-profile trade to be your starter, the unquestioned starter. And then you bring in a rookie as well. So there's a lot of dynamics in that room. The present is Carson Wentz. The future could be Sam Howell. And the guy that is kind of just caught in the middle of all this is Taylor Heinicke. So it could be awkward if someone wanted to make it that way. But by all accounts, listening to Wentz talk, listening to now Sam Howell and then Taylor Heinicke speak, seems like they're meshing well in that quarterback room, and everything's going, pretty good, and guys are helping one another out. Heinicke talked about, and we'll elaborate on this when we get to him, but he talked about, helping out, both quarterbacks at some point, with the playbook, because he's very familiar with Scott Turner's playbook. And Howell talked about how he's gotten help from Heinicke and how he's taken some pointers from Carson Wentz in terms of consistency and how to go about your job and how to go about work each and every single day. So he's taking little pointers here and there, and adding those things to his game. But all in all, it's a learning experience. And like I said, in a perfect world, we don't see Sam Howell at any point this season in any capacity whatsoever. Okay. That's the perfect storm, right? Is that this kid, even if he is the future for this football team, the hope is that he doesn't see the field until at the earliest next season. That's the hope. Because if he sees the field at any point this season, because even in a blowout victory, that's Taylor Heinicke's mop-up duty. That's not Sam Howell's mop-up duty. So even in a blowout victory, which we hope to have several under our belt this year where you get to get your backup in the game, that still shouldn't be Sam Howell. He's supposed to be third on the depth chart. So if he plays at all, one of two things has transpired. Both disastrous for us as fans and for this team overall. One, we've sustained two major injuries at the quarterback position. Or the other is we are just absolutely horrid. And record-wise, it makes no sense to put Taylor Heinicke in. You might as well give the young fella a shot. And the only way you get to that point is if Carson Wentz either, gets injured or he stinks to the point where they put in Heinicke and he gets injured or he stinks. Again, none of those are positive outcomes for this team. So under no circumstance should we see 14 in his rookie season. And all he needs to do is learn. Mental reps, learn what it's like to be a pro, command this offense. And then if things go awry with Wentz, now you got Sam Howell to fall back on. So it was good to hear from him. It was a good reminder for me. I'm guilty as charged. I forgot all about the young kid. I'm not going to lie to you. Because even if Wentz doesn't work, the next guy up is Taylor Heinicke. So I'm not even thinking about Sam Howell right now. But it was good to hear from him. And, it was crazy to hear him talk about the relationship with him and De'Ami Brown, because De'Ami Brown said in his presser that he cried when Sam Howell got selected by Washington in the 5th round. He cried. So that's how much it meant to him that they were going to be teammates again. And that's how close they are as friends. So he spoke about their relationship and how close they are. He said the first person he called when he got selected, after, of course, the family members and people that were, loved ones that were around him, the first person he called was De'Ami Brown. So, they do share a special relationship. And we'll see if that relationship ends up manifesting itself on the field at the pro level for the Washington Commanders or not. My hope is that it doesn't, but we'll see what ultimately happens. I'm hoping it doesn't, because Carson Wentz takes command of this offense, this team, and the quarterback position as a whole for this franchise moving forward. Taylor Heinicke spoke, and it was good to hear from Taylor. Last season obviously didn't go the way that we hoped it had would have gone, but he gave us some moments last year, man. I mean, the Giants game, the Falcons game, the Panthers game, the Bucks game. He gave us some games last year where, we walked away saying, man, I'm not sure if this kid can't do it, but we already knew. The signs were there. We talked about them throughout the course of the season. There were games that were very winnable that we didn't get it done because I thought he didn't play well enough. Yeah, the defense probably shared some blame in that as well, but a better offensive performance, and there were games there to be won that we left on the table. And a lot of that can be traced back to the quarterback position in Taylor Heinicke. That said, people always constantly want to remind everyone that last year he was essentially, for all intents and purposes, a rookie, and that just more experience will give him a better chance to be more successful in the league. And while that is true, right, there's also the other end of the spectrum that says, hey, this guy's got limitations. He doesn't have the arm strength. He's not the size, the prototypical size you're looking for. There are a lot of things that he lacks that you're looking for, that he physically doesn't have it. He has all the intangibles that you're looking for, but there are some things that you just can't get from a Taylor Heinicke. And he acknowledged that. He's like, look, I know that there are some things that I don't have. I'm not the prototypical quarterback that you're looking for, size, arm strength, that kind of thing. But I bring other things to the table that make up for the lack of size or arm talent. He talked about even going out to LA and working with a quarterback guru that he says is helping him with his arm strength. There's only so much he can do. You can get with a speed coach. And look, if you're not super fast, he's not going to make you super fast, right? The speed coach can only work with what you're bringing to the table. He can take your 4.58 and turn it into a 4.55 or a 4.54, right? But he can't take your 4.58 and turn it into a 4.48. That he's not a magician. He's not God. He's a speed coach. He can only show you techniques to shave off a few, couple hundredths of a second, right? But in Taylor Heinicke's case, he's like, look, my arm strength isn't going to get any better from just me throwing the football. It's about mechanics. There are a lot of times where I look back at the film last year and I didn't get my hips into the throw, or I'm throwing flat-footed and I didn't use my mechanics, so the ball didn't get there in the manner that I wanted it to, or it sailed on me, or there were times where I needed to put a little arc on the ball and I dipped my shoulder, so it forced the ball to go on a, more of a rope and a line trajectory instead of having that touch and that little bit of trajectory that it needed to get there. So he talked about, little things that he could do to clean up his mechanics to make his arm strength a little bit better. But again, it's only going to get but so much better, But he talked about staying healthy, which he did for the most part last year. He got banged up, and trust me, there were games where every time he got hit, he got up and he winced, and you were like, hey, I don't know if he's going to make it. But he made it through the season for the most part. And he talked about, just being in the same position this year as he was last year. And that was a great point, because people tried to make it seem like, oh, my God, Taylor Heinicke is back to being a backup. Where's your mental state? What is your psyche going into this offseason now that you're a backup quarterback? And he's like, bro, this was the same position I was in last season. It's the exact same position. They went out, they brought in a veteran to have me back up. And, this is a little bit different. And he acknowledged this. This is a little bit different from this standpoint. We went out and sought after a quarterback and traded for him. And we're paying him $28 million. And so there's a big difference between going out and getting Ryan Fitzpatrick, a journeyman quarterback that's a starter, and paying him $10 million and going out and trading two, threes and one of those threes can turn into a two, and eating the salary of Carson Wentz, which is around $28 million. And, talking about that guy coming in and starting and whether it would be a competition. Remember, last offseason, there was a bit of a competition. All right. But we knew Ryan Fitzpatrick was the starter. It was his job to lose, even though there were times where we felt like Taylor Heinicke was outperforming him in camp and even into the preseason. It was Ryan Fitzpatrick's job to lose, and he wasn't going to lose that job. They brought him in there to start. Well, this year, we got a full season of Heinicke. We got to see what he was about, and they made it abundantly clear, whether it was Martin Mayhew or it was Ron Rivera, they made it abundantly clear, or even Scott Turner to a lesser degree, they made it abundantly clear that we need to upgrade the quarterback position. And they always started with, we love Taylor Heinicke. He's a gamer. I mean, how many times can you say that? It's like somebody pretty much saying, hey, man, you're a hell of a game manager, but we got to get another guy in here that can, give us a little bit more at the position. They didn't want to say he was a game manager because that's not what he is. He's a gunslinger, but they're like, he's a gamer, and he's a competitor, but and we thank him for everything he did for us last year, but we got to find us a guy that gives us a little bit more. We need a bigger, stronger, armed, quarterback that can come in here, push the football down the field, and really give us an opportunity to have chunk plays. So that's kind of where Heinicke came into play, or Wentz rather. And, it just left Heinicke in a tough spot because, and I thought the question that was asked by Tom Lavero at the very end of his presser, it was a very poignant question. And it was one that I was actually, and I don't know why I was surprised, because Heinicke doesn't run away from any questions. He doesn't duck or dodge anything. He usually meets questions head on, and he's very perceptive. I think he's very self-aware, and he's not afraid to say how he feels. A lot of guys try to be politically correct. They may dance around the true way they feel because they don't want to say anything that may rock the boat. I thought Heinicke's answer was pretty much like, y'all know what it is. So I don't even need to bullshit y'all here. Look, bottom line is they brought in a quarterback. I didn't get the job done. And he was pretty much asked by Tom Lavero, is there an actual competition? Is there anything that he can do to convince the coaching staff that he should be the starter? And he stopped, he smiled, and then he said, you know what? I'm not gonna bullshit you. No, there's nothing I can do. He said, this is a business. The NFL is a business. Okay. And they went out and they traded for a guy, and then they paid him $30 million. I'm making $2 million, essentially. This guy's making 30. They didn't go out and trade for a guy and pay him $30 million to sit him behind a guy making $2 million. I mean, he's right. So he's like, there's nothing I can do other than if something were to go down with Carson, I'd be ready. But I'm hoping Carson does well. I'm rooting for him to do well. But I'm going to be ready in the event that something happens, just like I was last year. And he's like, I've got more experience under my belt. I'm a lot more comfortable. And so, I'm ready if that opportunity should present itself. But at the end of the day, there's nothing I can do. This decision has already been made. It was made the minute the season ended. They knew they wanted to upgrade the quarterback position. They just didn't know with what quarterback. They got Wentz. It is what it is. So I thought that was really interesting on the part of Heinicke to actually answer that question and just be frank, and blunt, and pretty much say, no, there's nothing I can do. At least last year there was this, faux camp battle, right? It never really existed. But at least to the masses, it was portrayed as a battle. There's no battle this year. Carson Wentz is the guy. And Heinicke even said, look, he's talented, man. He looks the part. He's got everything you're looking for. This guy is the real deal. So, we'll see how it all goes. But again, the quarterback room is starting to fit in. I think the pieces of that room are starting to fit in quite nicely. Heinicke talked about helping out both Wentz when he first got there. Wentz was like, hey, bro, it's a lot of words, so some numbers that are throwing me off a bit. You think you can help a kid out? And he's like, yeah, I got you. So, they established a relationship there. And then, Sam Howell comes in and he's leaning on Heinicke to help with the playbook as well. So Heinicke definitely, and that's the thing you need from your backup quarterback, is you need a guy that already has a command of the playbook so that he can help teach others the playbook that need the help. That's why when you see an offensive coordinator or a head coach of an offensive-minded guy go to a new team, an offensive-minded head coach, he goes to a new team, the first thing he does is he grabs one of his backup quarterbacks and pulls him along with him. If an offensive coordinator gets a job and one of his guys are available to help him install his offense, he's going to pull that guy. That's why we've seen Josh McCown in so many different locales. That's why we've seen Chase Daniel in so many different locales, because you pull that guy with you and he's going to teach your new starting quarterback the offense. He's going to be another coach on the field, essentially. Any skill guys that are having issues with the playbook or where to line up, that's where Chase Daniel comes in. For us, it's Taylor Heinicke. He knows this playbook like the back of his hand. He's had the most experience of it or with it, more so than any other player on this roster, because his experience and exposure to Scott Turner's offense goes all the way back to his days in Minnesota. Okay. Then he was in Carolina, and now he's with us. And this is his third year with us, really second full year, but also he had the tail end of the 2020 season. So at the end of the day, nobody knows the playbook as a player on this roster better than Taylor Heinicke. So it's good to have him in the room with a veteran quarterback that just got here that needs help and has assimilated well, and a rookie quarterback that's looking to take a hold of the playbook. So anyway, that was Taylor Heinicke. Then you get to Montez Sweat. I told you Sweat and Daron Payne, I usually get a kick out of both of those guys because they really want nothing to do with media availability. If you had a choice, they wouldn't do it. I mean, a lot of guys wouldn't do it if they had a choice. It's an obligation that they have to fulfill, so they do it. I think Tez is getting a little bit more comfortable, with the media availability, whereas Payne is still like, look, it's like pulling teeth. Tez stepped up to the mic. First of all, sometimes, and I was in this same stage, sometimes when you're growing your hair out, you don't really know how the end result is going to turn out. You don't know what it's going to look like. You don't even know what a guy is doing, And sometimes when you're growing your hair out, you don't even know what you're doing. You're just doing it. That's where you are at that point in your life. And so I had no idea what Montez Sweat was angling at. I didn't know if he was just going to be one of these dudes that went with a nappy fro, because that's the look with some of these young boys today, is that they just don't comb their shit. They go to bed, they wake up, they walk out of the house. They roll out of the bed and they walk out of the house. Like Andrew Wiggins, they just never seen a pick, But that's not what Tez was angling at, He got his shit corn rolled up. It looks good. I'm feeling it. And so that was good to see. But listening to him speak, the media, they frustrate me at times, because I think they ask some stupid questions and then they're redundant a lot of times. They ask the same questions over and over again, just in different ways. And and if it's something that is a bit of a sore spot for you or something you really don't want to talk about, it can become frustrating. But these guys, they've done this before. They know how the media can be. So they usually try to keep their cool and their composure. A lot of you got a kick out of Cam Curl yesterday. And it was funny when he said it, because he did it with a smirk, and then he went straight to a straight face. And there was just straight silence over the room. And nobody really could, respond, because what are you going to say when truth is being told? When they asked him about wanting to expound upon, the Jack Del Rio situation and why no one wants to really talk about it, he said, because y'all take things and y'all spin it, y'all give it a twist. And they couldn't say nothing, And so I think at times some of these guys are guarded with their responses because of that fact. And Montez Sweat, I think, is is one of those guys. Like, remember last year, I told you you could see he was starting to open up. He was feeling himself. Remember last year in training camp, there's a lot of yelling going on, and you could see he was starting to really get his footing under him. And I thought that last year was going to be that breakout season. We all did. He did too. Chase did too. We all went into last season. I wasn't as bullish on the entire defense as a whole as some of you were. Some of y'all were talking reckless top 5 and this, that, and the third. And I said, not with this schedule. I said, we're taking a step back in terms of ranking, but we may feel better about this defense as a whole at the end of next season, even though, you go from ranked 8th in the league defensively in 2020 to, let's say, 14th. But you may look at the totality of the schedule that we played, the quarterbacks that we played against: Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Tom Brady, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, and you say, you played against murderer's row in terms of a schedule with all these quarterbacks, and you held your own. You might have been able to walk away and say, well, damn, I feel really good about this defense. We're not playing that schedule again. So if we can hold our own against that schedule, what are we going to do when we're playing the likes of, the schedule that we're playing this year with Marcus Mariota and, Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields and all these second-year quarterbacks and Davis Mills, and you're like, we're going to devour these dudes, right? Well, that it didn't exactly go that way last year. Tez wasn't terrible, right? I think he ended up with 5 sacks last season before he got injured. I'd like to think that had he not gotten injured, because he missed a significant amount of time last season, I'd like to think that if he doesn't get injured, I think he makes it to double digits. It wouldn't have been in the impressive fashion that we thought, where he might blow up and have 13.5 sacks, 15 sacks. But I think he might have crept over 10, like 10, 10.5, or been right sniffing around maybe 9.5. He was rushing solidly. I didn't have a problem with what he was producing. It just wasn't on that massive scale that we thought we were going to get. But you can tell that, coming into this season, he doesn't really want to do that again. And they asked him about it. And that's the thing that gets on my nerves with the media. Like, they're going to rub it in your face. Remember last year when you said you were going to do this? Yeah, you didn't do that. How do you feel about not doing that? Clearly, I'm not happy about that. Then somebody's going to ask you the same damn question, worded differently, and ask you, well, do you think you're going to do that again this year? No, dumbass, I'm not. Thanks for asking again. So he was kind of going through the motions of that. You're like, yeah, look, this year I'm just more concerned about winning. That was his response to all of the questions about, the statement him and Chase made about, having the most sacks combined of 2 teammates in NFL history, this, that, and the third. And he's like, look, this year I'm just concerned about winning. That's it. I'm not concerned about anything else other than just winning ball games, and everything else will take care of itself. It's a great answer. I felt like watching Family Feud, and how those family members clap and say good answer, even though they know it's a bullshit ass answer. He actually gave a good answer, and I felt confident going, good answer, because when they go survey says, it's going to go ding, and it's going to be one of the answers on the board, right? That's a good answer. That's what you want to hear, is that, look, I'm not worried about the numbers. They'll come, because he's talented enough. They'll come. Trust me. And, I'm just worried about winning, helping his team win. They asked him about, a contract extension. Of course he wants a contract extension. What kind of a question is that? Hey, do you want a contract? Nah, I want out of this bitch as soon as possible. What is he supposed to say? He's like, I'm not worried about that right now, man. I'm just trying to play football and win games. Like, again, I guess as a media member, that's your job. Your job is to ask the questions that people want to know, and it's up to the player whether they want to answer them or not, right? He was not going to answer that question. What does he want a contract? Of course he wants a contract. Like, what player doesn't? But that's out of his control. All he can do is go out on the field and play football. They brought up the death of his brother again. Why? I mean, you can ask him, is he okay? But you don't have to keep belaboring the point that his brother died. He knows his brother died. Okay. Yes, it's a Band-Aid. We've already ripped it off. Please don't dig in my wound and cause it to bleed again. Like, that's the kind of stuff that, how about you tell him congratulations on his wife being pregnant? How about you do that instead of bringing up his brother died? But again, that's the media. I stay out of their business and their affairs. They stay out of mine. So at the end of the day, I thought Tez handled himself well. He seems like he is in a really good space mentally. You know, that there was a lot to digest last year between being injured and, of course, the loss of his brother. There's a lot going on there, man. Man broke his jaw at one point. It was wired shut for a little while. You know, and then you got the whole situation with his brother, and then he comes back, and then he gets injured again. And so it was a rough ordeal for him. But he said, you know what? I feel fresh. You know, the offseason, generally when you go into the offseason, you're beat up, your body's banged up because you've gone through a full, 16, and last year was the first time it was a 17-game schedule. And you just, you're ready for the time off to allow your body to heal before you can get back after it. He's like, I missed so much time last year that I was relatively fresh heading into the offseason. So I feel great. I'm in great shape. I'm ready to go. And finally, a good question, which was, and this was the one I was dying to know. He was having a nice sidebar conversation with Warren Sapp. That's what I was more intrigued by. I didn't want them bringing up his brother's death or, hey, you didn't get the sacks you said you were going to get last year. You and Chase made these declarations. How did that work out for you? It didn't work out. Will you do that again? Did you learn something from that? No, dumbass. I didn't learn anything from it. I'm going to do the exact same thing over again. But somebody finally, and I think it was Mitch Tischler, that finally asked the question that I was concerned about, which was, hey, Warren Sapp was out there at practice today, man. How was that? The OG out there dropping some gems on your melon. How was all of that? And I would have loved to have had, a question be asked about what was said. I don't know if he would have actually gone into some of the pointers that the OG Warren Sapp was dropping on him. But I would have loved to have seen someone actually ask that question instead of the same dumbass question in 5 different ways. So it was good to hear from Tez. He's in tremendous shape. Looking forward to this being a massive season for him. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I think he's more talented than Chase Young. I think from a raw ability standpoint, he's a better athlete. He's got longer limbs. I think the upside for Montez Sweat is higher than that of Chase Young. And with Chase coming off of the injury, and we got word today that Chase will start training camp on the PUP list. That's not a surprise to any of us. With his injury occurring so late in the season, I find it hard to believe that he would be ready to start. Same thing with Logan Thomas. I find it hard to believe that Logan Thomas will be ready for the start of the season. His injury happened later than Chase's. So Chase's injury happened at the start of that 4-game win streak. Logan's happened at the very tail end of that 4-game win streak. So as far as I'm concerned, 2 of our big-time starters will be on the shelf as the season gets underway. But what I didn't know is that another starter could potentially be on the shelf when the season starts. And that's the last guy that stepped up to the podium today in center, Chase Roullier. So did you guys know? Did you know the extent and the severity of both the injuries to Logan Thomas and Chase Roullier? I think I was a little bit more taken aback by Chase Roullier's injury and his description of what took place than that of Logan Thomas's, because we knew Logan Thomas had a torn ACL, and we knew that there could be more damage done there. We saw the hit. We knew how gruesome it looked when it happened. We were all pissed off about the dirty nature of the hit and the unnecessary nature of it. But, we said, okay, we know what the recovery time frame and process is going to be. More likely than not, he won't be ready to start next season because of, again, the late nature of the injury and when it occurred. So hearing that, there was a little bit more damage with Logan was like, there was a little bit of, hey, is Logan's ACL? Because remember the reports last year, it started out with, oh, it's not as bad as we thought. Initially, we thought it was an ACL. It doesn't look like he's going to have an ACL procedure that needs to be done. Then like 2 days later, it turned out to be an ACL, and they didn't say anything else. So we didn't know about the MCL and then the 2 meniscuses in there that had to be repaired as well. With Chase Roullier, we all remember the injury. I felt bad, and some of you made me feel even worse about it. I already felt bad, and you made me feel even worse about his injury because remember, I talked about how comfortable I was with the center position on our team because we don't have injury concerns. Chase Roullier doesn't get hurt. I literally said that like maybe a week or two prior to him having his knee shredded versus the Green Bay Packers. And so I felt terrible because I felt like I put some bad juju out there. And I didn't know what extent his injury, ended up being. But let's just say, and he didn't really want to get into the particulars of it, but let's just say this man said he had to have 3 separate procedures done on his knee, and it involved the ligaments and the bone. So that meant that he had some breaks. It might have been a clean break. Usually when it's a clean break, it's easier to repair. But he had some breaks clearly in there and definitely some ligament damage. So we could be talking AC, MC, and PC in terms of all the L's in there. That's a lot when you're talking post, anterior, and medial lateral. That's some serious damage we're talking about when you're talking about the AC, DC, or AC, MC, and PC. And then he's talking about bone as well. So that was scary listening to Chase talking. He's like, yeah, we're on schedule, but it's still going to be a little ways away. So I'm thinking to myself, because I just assumed his happened before the bye week. It happened before Chase. It happened before Logan's. It happened in Green Bay. I was like week 8, right? So I'm thinking to myself, oh, shit, he'll be back. He'll be fine. It was right around the same time that Landon Collins' injury happened the year prior. His was like week 7, week 8 against Dallas. I think we ended up 2-5 after the game. So that was week 7. His happened in like week 8 against Green Bay. So I'm thinking, oh, he'll be fine. But I didn't know the extent. Maybe you guys knew how serious and severe Chase Rouillier's injury was. I had no clue. So I just assumed, oh, we'll have our entire offensive line intact. He'll be fine. He'll be ready to rock and roll by training camp. And that's what he's aiming for. He said he's aiming to be ready for training camp. There's no way in hell he's going to be ready for training camp, as far as I'm concerned. And then he dropped a bomb on me, and I forgot about this because there were so many injuries last year. So I totally forgot about Tyler Larsen tearing his knee up last year. He did it like 2 weeks after. And remember, Larsen was already dealing with an injury. He came back early, and then he tore his knee up. And then we had to put in, Wes Schweitzer. He gets injured, and then we had to put in Keith Ishmael. It was a disaster at the center position last year. So he's like, yo, Tyler Larsen's also rehabbing with me. So he's like, it's been pretty cool to have someone else that is in your position group at the same exact position in the same time frame, not the same exact injury, but same time frame, because he's coming back from knee surgery as well, rehabbing. So you've got someone to keep you company, for you to talk ball with, so you're not going through this process alone. Because one of the things Chase Rouillier said, and you hear guys say this all the time, because football is such a brutal sport, and it's next man up. So when you get hurt, it's almost like you're no longer a part of the team if it's a significant injury, because you're away from the team, you're rehabbing, you're not around the fellas. It's almost like they forgot about you, right? It's tough. You go from the camaraderie of 52 other guys being in that locker room, chumming it up with them every single day, to then all of a sudden it's like they just cut you off. All right. You're no longer in the trust fund. You're cut off. You got to rehab. You're not in the facility with them. They're on the practice field. You're in the pink room. You're in the locker room. They're on the road. They're at a different site. So you're never around these players. And so he's like, that was tough. That was tough. But he got through that, and he said, look, Tyler Larsen is also rehabbing with me. So neither one of those guys are ready to go. So that puts us in a position where he said Wes Schweitzer is taking, first team reps. That's my guy. And I don't have a problem with Wes Schweitzer taking first team reps at center because he can get the job done. However, that's our best backup guard, taking our starters reps at center, and it weakens the overall depth of our offensive line. So we need those two guys to get healthy as soon as possible. I think, and I feel this way, and I can't say this, I can't confirm nor deny this. I did not sleep at a Holiday Inn last night, so I can't tell you that I'm a doctor and I know the prognosis here. However, I feel more confident in Chase Roullier being ready for week 1 than I do Chase Young or Logan Thomas being ready for week 1. If I put it in order of the way I saw these players being back, it would be Chase Roullier first, Logan Thomas second, and then Chase Young last. So even though the injuries happened, Roullier, Young, and then Logan Thomas, I think Young is the one that will be back. They'll take it probably a little bit slower with him. And so I think he'll be the one that comes off of the PUP list last and is ready to join the team and contribute at some point during the course of the season. So get well soon, Chase Roullier. Get back on the field. He's like, I'm taking, mental reps right now. And he's like, the one thing that has prepared me for not getting the reps with 2 new guards on each side of me is the fact that, and it was funny when he said it. He didn't mean it as a joke, but just thinking about the way he said it, I'm like, he's not wrong. He's like, I've always had a revolving door of guards next to me. So I'm used to playing next to different dudes and having to adjust. And I'm like, shit, that's part of the reason why, it's tough for this offense to take that next step. Clearly, we don't have the quarterback and haven't had the quarterback, I should say, over the years. But also the offensive line being in constant flux doesn't help. The teams that usually have the most success up front are the groups that have continuity, that bring the same 5 guys back, that have the same 5 guys starting for the vast majority of the season, don't have a bunch of guys in and out of the lineup. And since he's been here, there's always been turmoil at guard. The tackle position, not so much, even though of late the tackle position has been going through the ringer a bit. But it's really been at the guard positions. We've been playing, ring around the rosy, essentially. Duck, duck, goose at guard. Okay, you run around and then you pick a guy. He's your new starting guard. And then next year you run around and you pick another guy. So Brandon Sheriff was the constant at right guard, but even he would get hurt every year and miss 2 or 3 or 4 games. So you would still have somebody next to you that, you aren't accustomed to having next to you. So all in all, I learned a lot about Chase Roulier's injury, more so than I knew before. And I don't know if he'll be ready for week 1. He's aiming for training camp, but I'm like, hey, look, I'd much rather have you ready for week 1 versus Jacksonville than week 1 of training camp. So whatever you need to do to get yourself ready for September versus July, I'm all for it. So we'll see what happens. But right now, the offensive line is not fully intact. We're still waiting on Chase Roullier. And I'll feel even better when Tyler Larson is able to come back healthy as well to give us that depth we need at the center position. So, and then lastly, day 2, I talked about this earlier in the show, but Warren Sapp, Hall of Famer, the Hall of Fame defensive tackle, was at Commanders practice on Tuesday for day 2 of mandatory minis. And his presence was well received. It was very much so welcomed. And I was just happy to see him out there. I don't even know what prompted this. It'd be one thing if Ron Rivera was, his coach for 5 years when he was, in Tampa Bay, or they crossed paths at some point. I don't think they were ever on the same team, and that Rivera was ever his coach at any level. Whether, Rivera was a coordinator at first in San Diego, before getting an opportunity. I think he was also a coordinator. I think he was a linebackers coach in San Diego. Then he got a defensive coordinator job for the Bears, and then he got the head coaching job in Carolina. Clearly, Warren Sapp didn't play for any of those franchises. He just played for the Bucs and the Raiders. So I don't know what the significance was in terms of getting him here and who actually reached out to him, or if he reached out to them, if he just said, I'm tired of sitting on my couch, I want to get out, get to a couple of camps, see what some of these teams are doing, or if he just picked Washington in particular. I don't know. I would love to know why he was at camp, like how that came about, who he actually talked to, or if he reached out to us, if he wants to get into coaching, or I don't know. But he looked comfortable at camp, and I just love him being around these guys. It can't hurt to have a Hall of Fame defensive tackle dropping gems on the melons of these young fellas out here. he talked about Payne and Allen and Mathis, and he said, look, I love these boys. Okay, I love these boys. He said, look, these boys are like, butchers, big butchers in a china shop, right? Like these guys are big, they're physical, they're fast, they're athletic, they got everything they need to be elite players at the NFL level. They just need elite level coaching, which I've said all along, I don't think they're getting. I've always loved Warren Sapp's animation. He's always been an animated guy. Love his Sappisms, as I like to call it. Don't put the church's money on the floor was always one of my favorites. I've used that quite a bit. No hands, slow feet, don't eat is another one he always likes to say. He was the guy that coined the phrase tiptoe burglar when he was talking about Brandon Jacobs. I've always loved Warren Sapp, right? I would love it if he would be around more. And you see this at times with camp. Guys just show up randomly. We get North Turner here. Obviously, his son's on the staff, so he pops up every now and again. We had somebody here, I want to say last week. It was a random ass dude. Like, what is he doing here? And he was helping out a little bit. So, and I don't think he had a connection to Ron Rivera either. So, all in all, it was a welcome sight to see Warren Sapp out there, and it can only help these players to get some knowledge from, as I mentioned, one of the greatest defensive tackles in NFL history. So I don't know if that's going to be a recurring theme or if this was just a one-off, but it was welcomed. That's for sure. And I would love to see more of it. Even him talking to Montez Sweat, he was probably telling him, look, bro, it ain't many dudes in the league that have your skill set. Got your size, your length. You should be tearing shit up. But you got to want it, bro. Ain't nobody going to give you anything. You got to go out here and take it. So I loved it. Love it. Want to see more of it. Anyway, I digress. So let's get to the comment section, see what you guys have to say, if anything tickled your fancy over the last couple of days of mini camp. If anything in the media that was said that, piqued your interest that you want to talk about, the floor is yours. I'll just address this quickly. I don't feel I really need to, because I've said this a million times. I don't like to continue to belabor a point. That's one of the things that I do a ton is belabor points. So trying to get better at that. I don't feel like I need to say this again, but I'm going to say it because Ron brought it up. And, there was this crazy rumor going around that Indianapolis was going to be a landing destination for Terry. I didn't hear that. You guys brought that to my doorstep yesterday. I had, no knowledge of that prior to you guys bringing that to me. But that's a joke, okay? We're not trading Terry. And Ron put that shit to rest today. He's like, under no circumstances are we trading Terry McLaurin. I already told you guys, they're going to sign a long-term deal, okay? They're going to sign Terry to a long. They need Terry. They don't want Terry. Okay, they need Terry. Okay, there's a difference. So anyway, I digress. Let's get to the comment section and your comments. And let's see, I gotta address something on my screen quickly, and then we will get this party started. There we go. Ooh. All right. So, Lance Eubank will start us off tonight. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, Lance Eubank, and greatly appreciate you being a member of the MOBB, who writes, bubble wrap Curtis and roll him down the field. He was actually out there running around today. I don't think he participated in the team drills, but he did do individuals. I'm fine with that. Again, I'm not really pressed this time of the year to get anybody. I know there were several linemen, Charles Leno, Cornelius Lucas, and I want to say it was one more guy that was out due to like an illness or something. But it's June. I'm not too consumed with who practiced and who didn't. I won't become overly consumed until we get into the season And now I'm giving you injury reports every single night. You know, when we get to the regular season, we're looking at the injury report every night, and we're trying to see who practiced, who didn't for both teams, because then that's when that stuff becomes of great importance, not in June. So not really concerned with Curtis Samuel and his situation right now. I just want him to be healthy when the games matter. So I get it. There can be some frustration when you keep hearing about him not being 100%, but again, I'm not concerned right now. It will become an issue when we get closer to the season and we're still having this conversation. But as of right now, not concerned. Metaphor, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, my guy. Metaphor writes, Lou, Mob, hallelujah. Warren Sapp came by to give the D-line some good pointers and undo some of that Sam Mills-ish. It was funny. So Ben Standig of the Athletic, who is a beat writer, you guys know him, tweeted out a couple of videos of Sapp, and one of them was them hitting the sled, right? And you know, that's when you heard Sapp say one of his Sappisms, as I like to call it. You know, no hands, slow feet, don't eat. And all I could think of was watching Sapp go through that drill and instruct these players, make sure you're using your hands, get out of there, and let me see those feet. And I'm watching Sam Mills behind him, and I'm like, yo, stinking ass. That's all I could think of was Sapp is out here trying to undo a year or two of your foolishness in one day. It's not going to happen, but I appreciate you trying, Warren. I do. So, yeah. It is what it is. And we might be too hard on Sam Mills. We may be too hard on him. I know I'm guilty, but I think I've seen from some of these players, I've seen regression. And I don't think that's by accident. So anyway, I digress. You know what was interesting? I do need to say this. I'm glad that you brought up Sapp again, because Sapp spoke to the media because they were all interested in why he was there. And I've been saying the same thing, and it's driving me nuts with these guys. And it's one thing if you're playing a 3-4 defensive scheme and you're asking your defensive linemen, which we did when they first got here, when, you know, we were playing a 3-4 defensive front. Before Ron got here, we were playing a 3-4, right? So when you're playing that 3-4 defense, were we playing a 3-4 with Greg Minuski? I think we might have gotten rid of it after, I don't know. I can't recall when we finally made the switch back to a 4-3. Feels like it hasn't been that long. But anyway, when you're playing a 3-4, you ask your defensive lineman to 2-gap, meaning they are responsible for each gap, you know, to each side of them. So you're in this, say you're in the C gap. You're responsible for the B gap and you're responsible for the D gap. Okay, so you're 2-gapping. Your gap that you're in, which is the C gap, and whether this thing flows in one direction or the other, you're responsible for both of those. So you can't get up the field when you're a 2-gapper. Your job is to hold the point of attack, and whatever gap the running back chooses, you make sure he's wrong. So you stay in the C gap, hold up that offensive lineman, and if that running back presses and then cuts it back into the B gap, you get off of the block and you get in that B gap. You're responsible for the C and the B gap. If he presses and cuts it outside and he tries to get up the D gap, you're responsible for the C gap and the D gap. So you shed, get to the ball carrier. So when you ask a defensive lineman to 2-gap, you're essentially neutering him. You're taking away any aggressiveness and you're asking him to sacrifice himself for the good of the team. You want him to keep the linebackers clean, and you want him to eat up space, eat up blockers, and protect and patrol 2 gaps in either direction. What I'm asking these guys to do, what I think they should be asked to do rather, is be 1-gap penetrators. And that's what Warren said. He's like, look, get in that backfield. I ain't looking for y'all to 2-gap nothing. He said penetration is the enemy of any run play, and it is the absolute worst thing for a quarterback. He said, you as a defensive tackle need to get in that backfield and you set the stage for your edge rushers. He said, if these dudes get in the backfield, quarterbacks hate direct pressure. They hate pockets collapsing. When's the last time you've seen Daron Payne or Jonathan Allen collapse a pocket? I don't know. Don't ask me, because they don't. Either they win with quickness or they have to win because they were a part of a twist in the stunt. It's a little TE game up front. Or they just won off the snap. But rarely do we collapse the pocket. Maybe Fedarian Mathis can do that. We'll see. But we're not a collapse the pocket team. So quarterbacks have ample space to step up, and that makes it tough on Tez and Chase Young coming around the edge. What you want to do if you're going to rush as a collective group is you want to collapse the pocket inside. Now that quarterback has nowhere to step up. Tez and Chase, they're beating guys to the outside, but it's hard when you got to turn that corner and that quarterback just is allowed to step up. So Warren Sapp's like, yo, you set the stage by collapsing the pocket, by penetrating. You set the stage, and guess what? Chase and Tez are going to come around and knock their ass off that stage, okay? So I want to see them being more aggressive. I want to see these guys, instead of two-gapping, getting up the field. Now, again, if that's what's being coached, I can't be mad at the players for doing what is being asked of them. But I always want my defensive lineman being aggressive. You know, sometimes when you're a one-gap penetrator, you can run yourself out of the play. But they've talked about Daron Payne, you know, playing on the backside of plays, on the backside of a run, you know, going behind the block instead of attacking in front, even though you know you can't win. And sometimes when you go in the back door, you can get there and make the play. But if you miss, you just open up a gap, a big gaping hole where you should have been. So I just want to see these guys be one-gap penetrators, get up the field, and be aggressive, man. And that's what Warren Sapp is saying. And I love it. And I want to see more of it. Anyway, I digress. Thank you for that super chat metaphor. I was thinking a lot of the same thing you were in terms of watching him coach those boys up and thinking to myself, Sam Mills' ass is back here stinking it up. Anyway, King of the North, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, my guy, King of the North. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Writes, I think you're right, Lou. Team seems more mature. Ron's win now mentality has them focused. We still need to add depth on D. I hope Turner learns fast because LT might miss 4 games. D-line needs to play as a unit this year. So I want to, so I think I've been selling Cole Turner short, or not Cole Turner, excuse me, John Bates short. I still think he's a TE3. I'm gonna be honest with you, but he's gonna get the first crack to start, right? If Logan Thomas misses, and I think you might be right, he might miss the first 3-4 games of the season, and if that is in fact the case, then John Bates is gonna get the first opportunity to start. And I think Cole Turner will be his backup. I don't want to discount Sammy Reyes. You know, I think he's also in that mix. But, and we'll see the growth, because no one's talking about Sammy Reyes. Even when Logan Thomas talked at the podium yesterday, he didn't really mention Sammy Reyes. He talked about AGG, talked about Cole Turner, he talked about John Bates, even talked about Alex Arma. So I think he might have briefly, brushed over Sammy's, but he didn't really talk a lot about Reyes. So in order to really gauge his progress and where he is in his process, we're going to have to see him in extensive action, which we will. We'll see a ton of Sammy's in the preseason to really gauge where he is in his process. But I think John Bates is the first in line to get an opportunity to start. And whether it's Sammy Reyes or it's Cole Turner backing him up, we'll see. But you're right. We're going to see it. And maybe Cole Turner is going to be thrusted into a bigger role because of the absence of Logan Thomas early in the season. Maybe he's not. We'll see. But at the end of the day, they're going to add more depth defensively. They've already done that. They added a defensive tackle. Did you guys see that? I told you guys yesterday on the video that I did where I talked about them releasing The place kicker, Brian Johnson, and the defensive back, Will Adams. I said they're going to add in a couple of guys, and they added a tackle, and they added a defensive tackle and an offensive tackle. Willie Beavers, offensive tackle, and they added a defensive tackle. I don't remember what his name is, but he's going to also add depth to the defensive line. And so I still expect them to add some sort of depth at linebacker. Eventually, Ron has already made mention of wanting to add a veteran to that group, and I think he will at some point. It could be when cuts are starting to be made. It could be a guy that's already on the free agent market right now, just waiting for the phone to ring. Like, we'll see. But I think they will add more depth to the defense before it's all said and done. He said the D-line needs to play as a unit this year. And, I mean, we saw, even though they weren't as talented when Montez and Chase went down, we saw them playing as a unit, when those guys went down, and there was a little bit more production and synchronicity. It seemed like things were being timed up a little bit better. And those guys, again, super talents. I'm looking forward to them taking the next step this year and, getting this defensive line back to where we're talking about that being the strength of the football team and not one of the weaknesses. So I'm with you. This team is definitely more mature. We talked about it. They got a big ass slice of humble pie last year, But you know what? That's the territory that comes with the young team. I'm telling you, me being a Braves fan, me being a Grizzlies fan, it's prepared me as a fan to see the maturation and the growth, because I watched the baby Braves grow up. I watched them make mistakes. I watched them lose games that they could have won because they weren't ready. They were a young team, and they weren't matured and seasoned enough to win some of those, battles against teams that had been there, done that. I watched my Grizzlies lose a series in which I thought they were the better team. Now, obviously Ja Morant gets injured, but we lost game 1. We should have won that game. We had a chance to win game 4, and we lost that game at the very end after leading the entire game. So there were games there to be won that we just, as a young team, you just find ways to lose. You're not mature enough to handle some of the success that's coming your way. We saw this team not be mature enough to handle the success of a 7-9 season that resulted in a division crown. They thought they had won something. They thought they had done something. And you saw that immaturity rear its ugly head last year. I think that slice of humble pie was well-deserved and necessary. And I think now Ron is able to use what happened last year to motivate them this year and say, hey, you guys thought you did something last year. You guys thought you had arrived. You didn't. And the end result was you got your ass kicked by the division, and you only won 2 games in the division, and they happen to be against both the Giants. You got to be better. You can't win games in the division. You're not going to win the division. So I think the message has gotten across. This team does feel a lot more mature. And I think when you look at this team and you look at some of the guys that are perceived leaders, not even, not necessarily having the C on their chest, but guys that, we look to and we hear from. I first guy that comes to mind for me is Bobby McCain. I love Bobby McCain. I love his presence. I told you guys this as much last year. Bobby McCain for me is a leader on this football team. Obviously, Jonathan Allen is a leader and a man's man, right? But then you get the Terry McLaurins of the world, the Logan Thomases of the world. You get some of these guys that are seasoned veterans that have been here. Because even as a young team, when guys have been here 3-4 years, you're growing. Those young guys that used to be, looking up to some of the, older players that might, like a John Bostic, for instance. Now Bostic's out of the way, and Cole Holcomb is now assuming that leadership role. Even though he's young, he's been here long enough to say, hey, Jamin Davis, let me take you under my wing. Whereas Cole Holcomb was looking at John Bostic and saying, bro, take me under your wing. So now those young guys that once were looking for veteran guidance, they're now the veterans looking to lead these young players. And it's refreshing because when your young players, your more talented players are also your leaders, you're heading in the right direction. And I think that's where we're going now, where before, you were looking around. Matt Ioannidis had been the longest tenured defensive tackle. Now that moniker, goes to Jonathan Allen. Now he's the guy everybody's looking up to on that defensive line. Cole Holcomb is now the seasoned veteran on that linebacker crew that's going to play significant snaps. Okay, that's a good thing. You know, the secondary I always felt like was fine from that standpoint, but even Bobby McCain, whose voice I think resonates more than a Cam Curl or even a Kendall Fuller, right? Bobby McCain now can say, I've been here a full year. I know what everybody's skill set is. I know this defense now. So now I can tell guys where they should or shouldn't be. I've been here long enough to be able to do that. So now I think that level of maturity that we were looking for, we're getting that now because guys are comfortable in their roles. They've been here long enough. They know what to expect. They know the scheme. They know where everyone should be. And now you can't lead when you are trying to learn yourself. You know, when you just get somewhere, it's hard for you to tell a guy that's been here 3 years when you're just getting here what he should or shouldn't be doing. Now that Bobby McCain's been here, now that John Allen is assuming that leadership role, now that Terry McLaurin's about to get paid and he's going to be looked upon as one of the leaders, now that Cole Holcomb's assuming that middle linebacker position and he's the Don Dada of that linebacker room, now that you're starting to see these young players assume these leadership roles, it's a good thing for this football team. Now the maturity, I think, is going to start to set in. Chill Dude, thank you for the super chat. Thank you once again, King of the North, for the super chat. My guy, Chill Dude, thank you for being a member of the MOBB, writes, interesting watching Adam Rank predicting us 3-14. So everyone's pissed off about that. And I think that is the thing that I've gotten tweeted at the most this offseason is Adam Rank, a picture, a still photo of Adam Rank walking towards the board with us with 3-14 in the upper corner of the video that he is, you know, projecting onto the screen. And I told you guys, I don't get caught up in a lot of predictions and, you know, this, that, and the third. But I'll say this. Adam Rank crushed us, what, 2 years ago? I think it was. And he wasn't wrong, right? I don't remember if it was 2019 or if it was 2020 where he predicted us to be like, you know, 2-14 or something like that. And we were horrible. I think it was 2019. Might have been 19. It could have been 20. Either way, I don't think he likes us. I don't know if he grew up a fan of the Cowboys or, you know, it could be anything. You don't know Adam Rank. I don't know him. I can't speak for you. You may know everything about Adam Rank. I know nothing about him. I can just tell you, I don't give a shit what Adam Rank thinks. If I'm not mistaken, isn't he a fantasy football guy? Seriously? Or am I supposed to really take a fantasy football guy seriously? Yeah, you tell me who I should sit or start. Get out of my face. So I don't care what Adam Rank is talking about. Did you see our schedule? Did you see our schedule last year? Let me say that first. Did you see our schedule last year? Okay, and if you saw our schedule last year, you would know that we went 7-10 with a murderer's row schedule, the toughest schedule in all of the National Football League last year. If we just had the toughest schedule last year, and we have a much softer schedule without 5 straight backloaded division games to end our season, and we're playing the likes of Jack, and I got to stop doing this because I got to stop disrespecting Jacksonville and Detroit and Atlanta and Houston because, again, they're looking at us like food. So I'm going to continue to look at those teams like food, but I don't want you to think I'm disrespecting them because they're looking at us like food, and they should look at us like food. Who are we? We won 7 games last year. The Falcons won just as many, if not more, games than we won a season ago. Who are we to look at the Falcons like anything? All right. So anyway, I digress. I said all of that to say this. The schedule isn't anywhere near as brutal as it was last year. We have so much more talent than we did a season ago. And you think we're going to only win 3 games? Come on, give me a break. Now, here's the thing. When you're making predictions, somebody's got to be at the bottom of the food chain. Everybody can't be 7-10. Everybody can't be 6-11. That sucks. You got to, in order for a team to be 14-3 and have 13-4 teams, they got to feast off of the bottom feeders, the teams that are 3-14, 2-15, 4-13. There got to be 3 or 4 of those to have, you know, 2 or 3 teams that are 15-2, 14-3, or 13-4 because they got to get their wins somewhere. So in order for that to transpire, somebody's got to suck. And apparently Adam Rank thinks that's us. He's wrong, right? You know what? When I saw those when I saw those tweets of Adam Rank coming to my timeline from you guys, you know what I thought of? And this might be a little bit too old for some of you, but this is exactly what I thought about. For those of you old enough, you know about Two Stupid Dogs, right? And it was one of the stupidest cartoons ever made, right? But one of my favorite parts of that stupid ass cartoon was this guy, right? That every time one of the dogs would do something cute, he'd say, "Isn't that cute? But it's wrong." That's essentially how I felt about Adam Rank when I saw that tweet. "Isn't that cute? But it's wrong." We're not going 3-14. I don't give a shit what Adam Rank thinks. He's wrong. Thank you for the super chat, Chilled Dude. Let's see. Got another super chat here from Chilled Dude. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for doubling up. Double up. My guy, Chilled Dude, writes, "I really like our wide receiver room. I'm very impressed with the diversity we have at the position with Wentz. Going to be nice to see us move the ball more." It's funny to hear you say that, the diversity of the position, because that was the problem everybody had with the pick, including myself. I'm guilty as charged. When I remember when we first selected Jahan Dotson, I said, Jahan Dotson. And I paused, and a lot of you thought I didn't like the pick. It wasn't that I didn't like the pick. I was processing the pick because in my mind, I was thinking they would go after size, right? Somebody a little bit taller, again, it's not like, and the guy that we had pegged, the two guys that we talked about ad nauseum, were the two Ohio State receivers, excuse me. And one of them is 6 feet and Garrett Wilson, and the other is 6'1" and Chris Olave. They're not huge guys. It's not like, and Jahan Dotson is 5'11". So it's not like, those guys are 6'2" and 6'3" respectively. And they were an inch and one was 2 inches taller. That's it. So, I think that thing was kind of overrated, right? And another thing, clearly they wanted size because they were fixated on Drake London, and they would not have traded back if he were available, but he wasn't. So again, shout out to the Atlanta Falcons for doing us a huge solid. But when we got him, a lot of people were upset because we had the same size receivers. Oh, we got Smurfs out there. Curtis Samuel, 6 feet. Terry McLaurin's, 5'11", 6 feet. And now Jahan Dotson's 5'11", and De'Ami Brown, 6 feet. We got the same size receivers all across the board, and people were pissed off. And I'm like, who gives a shit? I don't care. As long as these guys are getting open, I don't care that we don't have any, really big targets. We still got Cam Sims. And I'm like, that's what the tight ends are for. That's what Logan Thomas is for. That's what Cole Turner's for. That's what John Bates is for. Yeah, you would love to have a one or two receivers that offer you that size at the receiver position. And we do have Cam Sims, but I'm not getting hung up on that. Give me guys that can get open, guys that can win one-on-one matchups. That, why I loved having Adam Humphries last year? Hump was always open. You know why Hump was open? Because he knew how to run routes. So when we needed a big catch on 3rd and 4 late in the ball game, guess who Heinicke was going to? You guessed it, Adam Humphries. Why? Because he knew Hump was going to be open. That's all I'm looking for. Give me a guy that can win. Jahan Dotson can win. So it's funny to hear you talk about diversity, because a lot of people were upset about the lack of diversity, no size at the position. Well, that's false, first and foremost, because we do have a guy with some size in Cam Sims. But I just love the speed. I'm big. I'm more so a speed and quickness guy than I am a size guy. I love size. You can't, teach size. Either you have it or you don't. But I much rather have the guy that just wins, And last year, for really the last 2 years, it's become more and more apparent. We keep talking about speed. We keep adding speed, but yet we still don't have enough of it. And you can never have enough speed. And when Terry first got here, he was all the speed that we had. We had no other speed. In 19, we didn't have any other guys that could run. We had, Harmon and guys like that out there with him. In 20, we had no speed. Isaiah Wright and Dontrell Inman. These are the guys we were putting on the field. We had no speed other than Terry. Last year, we added Curtis Samuel and De'Ami Brown, but both of those guys were injured. And then when Brown was healthy, he still wasn't really creating the kind of separation that we thought his speed might bring to the table. So we added more speed, right, in Jahan Dotson. And so now I feel like we've got speed everywhere, and you're not going to be able to account for all of it. So I love this wide receiving room as well. I think that it does provide us with mismatches all over the football field, because before you could try and double Terry, you could try to bracket Terry, and you really didn't have to worry about anybody else hurting you. Now, if you want to try that, somebody else is going to get open, whether it's Curtis Samuel, it's De'Ami Brown, or it's Jahan Dotson. Somebody's going to kick your ass. And, Wentz has been really developing a rapport with the rookie, Jahan Dotson, to the point where, when Terry comes back and he's able to establish a bit of a rapport with him, that's going to be a nasty little 1-2 punch there. And then you sprinkle in Curtis Samuel and De'Ami Brown and Cam Sims, and all of a sudden, again, I think you've got one of the most, formidable and scary wide receiver units. Now, they got to go out on the field. You can't crown them before they actually go out and make it happen. But if these guys play to their full potential and Wentz is getting the protection that we think he's going to be afforded behind this offensive line, and he's able to dissect defenses with the talent that we have, there's no reason for us not to be able to eat up a ton of yardage. And the thing is, we can't just be moving the ball up and down the field. We got to put it in the end zone. We got to score touchdowns. We've seen offenses here in Washington that have moved it between the 20s like it's nobody's business and just can't get it in the end zone. That doesn't help you one bit. So we got to not only move the football, but get it in the end zone. And again, part of getting Carson Wentz is unlocking the chunk touchdown plays. The 67-yard touchdown, the 42-yard touchdown strike. That's where Carson Wentz is supposed to come into play, where we really haven't had a lot of those over the last few years. So I'm excited about this wide receiving core as well. And, Jahan Dotson is a guy that really gets you excited. I can't begin to tell you how excited I am just by listening to people talk about how excited they are about Jahan Dotson. I mean, Wentz said some of the best hands he's been a part of. And I told you guys when he was drafted, I said, hands down, he's the best set of hands in the draft. It's not close. And this guy plucks the football out of the ball seamlessly. So I'm looking forward to it, man. Big time. Rob Yu, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Rob Yu, thank you for being a member of the MOBB Rights. Lou, Rob says, William Jackson had his struggles last year, but still a really talented player. You see him living up to that contract this year. Yeah, I thought, and he said it himself, and we all acknowledge this. He actually started out the season well in week 1. Remember, he got the interception on Justin Herbert in week 1. And, we was like, okay, this is what we're talking about. William Jackson III coming up clutch. And then he started to have a pass interference penalty every week. And he was doing stupid shit every week. And he was getting beat every week. And we were getting frustrated. And remember, this is a guy that played strictly man-to-man coverage in Cincinnati. We get him and we're telling him, hey, we need you to play this zone coverage, my man. And he's like, I mean, I can do it, but it's still going to be a bit of an adjustment for me because this is not what I'm used to. And so it took him a while. And he pinpointed exactly where I thought the light bulb came on, which was post-bye against Tampa. And really from that point on, his side of the field was, shh, be very quiet. His side of the field was very quiet. It was Elmer Fudd-like. It was very quiet. So I felt like he started to get it back into the season. It felt like Ronald Darby was over there. There just wasn't nothing going on that side of the field. So I feel like a year more comfortable in the system, a year more comfortable with what they're asking him to do. I think he's going to be a lot better for us. And I do see him living up to the contract. I really do. So Really excited about year 2 of William Jackson III in this defense. Metaphor. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, Metaphor. I got Metaphor rights. We command any stealing of our team, and we're damn good too. But you can't be any wide receiver off the street. You got to be handy with the Duke, if you know what I mean. Earn your keep. Commanders, mount up. I love it. Little Warren G action there, man. A lot of y'all don't know nothing about that. Regulators. Anyway, I'm telling you right now, man, I'm really getting excited. I told you guys this before, but it feels different. Even Ron Rivera said this year feels different. And I've told you why it feels different. It's not a secret. It's because of Carson Wentz. It feels different. Again, if Taylor Heinicke were the quarterback going into this season, it wouldn't feel different. I would feel the same way. I keep chastising Eagles fans. All these moves that they've made, still bottlenecking, because at the end of the day, there's only a certain point that you can get to with Jalen Hurts as your quarterback. I would have felt the exact same way here if our quarterback was Taylor Heinicke. Like, there's only so high you can go with Taylor Heinicke as your quarterback. Like, hey, you made all these adjustments and all these, additions that you've made to the offense from the running back standpoint and the tight end position and the receiver position and the offensive line. You've done all these upgrades, and you still got Taylor Heinicke. At the end of the day, it's like, Alfred Morris's Toyota. Like, bro, they gave you a whole new interior, they kind of gave you some work under the hood. But on the outside, bro, it's still a 1989 Toyota Camry. Like, there's only so much you could do to the car. Still looks like an 89 Corolla. I mean, yeah, they gave you some things, but at the end of the day, it's still a Toyota Corolla, bro. I don't know what you want. So you can clean up a lot of that stuff, but if you're not getting the production out of the quarterback position, it really doesn't matter. We think we have a guy that can take us to the next level. We think the defense is going to be on one accord. We're not playing a murderer's row schedule. It seems like guys have grown up. They're smarter. They're wiser. They're more focused. I feel like it's just different, and they're ready to mount up this year, and you got to be handy with the Duke. If you know what I mean. Earn your keep. Damn Skippy. Thank you for that super chat. Metaphor. Easy do it. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Easy does it. Writes, since Ron is Dan's guy, if Rivera were to have success here, which we all want, would that lock us in with Dan? Could be one big season, lock him in. Look, we don't care about, Dan and his shenanigans, because as fans, I think a lot of us have come to the realization that as much as we would like to get rid of Dan, Dan's not going anywhere. And to that effect, I had somebody ask me the other day, do you think if Ron wins the Super Bowl, that Dan's going to then retire because he got a Super Bowl? I'm like, are you kidding me? It might have the direct opposite effect. He may turn into Jerry Jones, where he wants to be more involved. He wants credit for this thing being turned around. He doesn't want to be in the background allowing Ron Rivera to take all the credit. No, he wants to be at the forefront of this, saying, look at what I did. It could get worse. I don't know, but I damn sure would love to find out. Okay. Let me find out. You know how people with money say money isn't everything. More money, more problems. Well, sign me up for that. Please let me find out for myself. If you're complaining about paying more taxes, let me have the means to pay more taxes. Let me get in another tax bracket and have to deal with those problems. Okay. I agree. Money doesn't make you happy, right? But damn it, I would love to find that out, So, in this case, I don't know if winning a Super Bowl would turn Dan into even more of a tyrant and a guy that wants to be even more involved and really get behind the wheel and say, I'm driving now. Get out of here, Ron. You get in the passenger seat. I'm driving this damn car now. But I sure as hell would love to find out, because if it means hoisting the Lombardi, if it means celebrating something that I've waited over 30 years to do, I'll gladly take the risk of Dan destroying this thing further, just knowing that we got a chip in hand. So I don't know what will happen, but I can tell you this. Ron isn't going anywhere. There's still this crowd out here that thinks Ron has to win this year or he's going to get fired. He's not. But what it will do is put him on the hot seat. It'll put him in a position where, okay, you're 4 years in. We haven't seen any change on the field. We've seen a ton of change in the locker room, and off the field, this organization is becoming a little bit more respected. Not a lot. I mean, Adam Rank having us go 3-14 tells you all you need to know about where we still are and how we're viewed on the outside looking in. Still, who cares about that? All we care about, all we got is us. I've always said, all we got is us. All we need is us. Okay. Am I my brother's keeper? That's all we got. All we got is us at the end of the day. I ain't worried about anybody else out there telling us what we are or aren't, or what we should or shouldn't do. We got this. All right. We got this. Thank you for the super chat. Easy does it. Rob you. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Rob you, who writes, Lou, I can see Cole and Jamin having nice seasons, but I think St. Juice is a sleeper who can be very effective if he overcomes his injury woes. I mean, all we can do is hope, because he showed flashes last year. When he played damn well. And, they said he had a knockaway in practice today in the slot versus Jahan Dotson. That's pretty damn impressive, because that kind of debunks the theory that I've been putting out there that, they're only going to use him in specific instances when it's a bigger receiver in the slot. Won't put him out there against a smaller, shiftier guy. Well, Jahan Dotson is the epitome of smaller, shiftier receiver. And if he's able to stay in his hip pocket and make plays, I got to see it for myself. I don't believe it. Again, the slot is no country for a slow man. So I don't really know if this is what they really want. I think they on some little dirt stuff when it comes to juice in the slot. This ain't what you want. I'm not sure if that's what they really want, but he could prove me wrong, because I still think you need, somebody in the slot. And just keep in mind, depending on how teams are playing in terms of what they're putting on the field, you could have two guys in the slot, one on each side. So, I may feel like Danny Johnson needs an opportunity, but you still may have to play someone on the opposite side in the other slot. So, again, that's where your safety comes down into the box and into play. That's where the big nickel comes down into the play. And so we'll see what happens. But Juice having an opportunity to make plays in the slot is intriguing. We'll see if it's a permanent move or if it's something that, he'll just do sparingly, but he's still more of a boundary corner. They asked Montez Sweat about it, and he said, look, I thought he did a hell of a job outside last year. So, wherever they put him, I think he's going to do well. But I, too, much like Tez, thought he was phenomenal outside, and I'd actually like to see him remain outside. But, again, if he can hold it down in the slot, I'm all for it. We'll see what happens. Anyway, I digress. I want to get to, let me see if there are any, never mind. I can't get a hold of it. So, Trevor Patch, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Trevor Patch, writes, how deep is the river if you cannot see the bottom? That's like one of those questions you ask when you say, does a tree make a sound if it falls, if nobody's there to hear it? You don't know, but you sure as hell are willing to find out. And that's kind of where we are with this process. Is we don't know how good this team can be. The only way to find that out is to have guys play at their full potential. You know, we can't see the bottom of the river. You want to find out how deep it is, jump in, find out. If it's too deep, you might have some issues, but put on some gear. You might be able to get down there and find out how deep it is. I'm willing to find out how talented this team can be. We'll see. Anyway, HTTR for life. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, HTTR for life, writes, I listen to your streams with earbuds while working all day today. Love the content as always. Well, I apologize if you were listening with earbuds. I just screamed at the top of my lungs when I did the two stupid dogs thing. So if you have on earbuds, that might not be too appealing to your earbuds. So I apologize for that in advance. But look, you know, I can, you know, with some of your help, some of these streams can go on forever. You know, I get a kick out of some of the comments from the Commanders Kings stream where it was a marathon, and that was probably the longest stream that either one of those guys had ever been a part of. You know, shout out to those dudes for sticking around with the kid and enduring a 4-hour plus marathon. So shout out to Rico, aka Street Scores, and my guy, of course, Big Ed Oliver. But it was a marathon, and Ed was struggling. Ed was on the struggle bus, to say the least. And of course, y'all don't miss anything. You know, I was struggling up here like 3 weeks ago, barely keeping my eyes open. I was asleep with my eyes open talking to y'all, and y'all noticed it. Like, y'all don't miss anything. So, you know, shout out to y'all for you know, supporting some of these long ass marathon streams. I was laughing at some of the comments like, yo, took me 5 days, but I got through the whole thing. Like, you know, it was so much to digest. You had to chop it up in the parts to get it all in, but you got it all in. And that's why I love y'all, man, because y'all always support the kid no matter what, man. So shout out to y'all, man. I really do appreciate you, HTTR for life, and people like you who continue to support the movement here on the Louie T Network, man. Appreciate you greatly. Trevor Patch, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Trevor, my guy Trev, writes, LT and CR, so Logan Thomas and Chase Roullier injuries. Who's our training staff? Good. They hired a new staff, right? Ron hired a guy that was here in Washington, obviously as a much younger man, but here in Washington under the Gibbs 1.0 regime. So he's definitely got some experience under his belt. And from all accounts, everyone that has been here, you know, putting in the work rehab-wise, has said that the staff has been phenomenal. Roullier was like, yo, this staff has been exceptional. You know, I feel really good about where I am in the process, and they've done a great job of getting me, you know, to where I am at this point. So sounds like the new staff that they've brought in is a solid group, and it just stabilizes that part of the organization, because it was a mess last year with all of the craziness going on. So it just stabilizes. If it's not, you know, so many things happen. It's easy to forget something like that. But in the middle of the season, the head trainer of our staff, medical staff, had to be put on leave because he was being investigated by the DEA. Think about that. The feds came a-knocking and wanted to confiscate things from the facility. Think about that for a second. Only in Washington. Gotta be kidding me. Anyway, I digress. Let's see. Got another super chat here from my guy, Trevor Patch. Thank you for the super chat, Trevor Patch. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Trev, writes, 4 door gunners, Lou singing lessons pool. Thank you for that. Door gunner was like, bro, what do I got to do to get you to stop singing? I'm like, there's no amount of money that you could pay me to get me to stop singing. I like to sing. What can I say? What more can I say? I know it's terrible. That's the point. Now, I will tell you this. Once upon a time, and my mom gives me a hard time about this all the time. I used to could sing. I hit puberty and my voice went to hell in a handbasket. I used to sing my favorite go-to song. If you think you can sing, you've got a go-to song. My go-to song when I could sing was by a group called Player. It was called Cheers to You. And so you couldn't tell me I couldn't sing because I was hitting them notes. And then I hit 13 and then I wasn't hitting them notes, if you know what I mean. So anyway, I digress. No, I know I can't sing, but it doesn't stop me from singing because some of you find it funny. Others of you are like, hey, shut up, stop singing. And the rest of you are like, hey, Louie T tripping. Either way, you feel some type of way about it, which is a good thing. So thank you for donating to the fund, but those funds will be reallocated to the Louie T Won't Stop Singing Fund. If you want to donate to that, please, by all means, be my guest. Metaphor, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Metaphor writes, Sapp visited 49ers camp years back when Mayhew was there. I don't know if that's the link. I don't know if Martin Mayhew reached out to Warren Sapp and said, hey, we would love it if you would come down and take a look at some of the dudes we have and give him a few pointers. Maybe he did. Maybe he didn't. I don't know if there's a correlation there or not, but I just found it odd because generally you get old players that, you know, have ties to the organization, which Warren Sapp does not, or you get, you know, players to come back, hang around at camp that were once upon a time players under one of the coaches on the staff, which again, I don't think is the case here. Maybe Warren Sapp played for Jack Del Rio. Now that I think about it, maybe Del Rio's Raiders tenure and Warren Sapp's tenure with the Raiders, maybe that overlapped by maybe a year. Sapp's last year may have been Jack Del Rio's first. I don't know, in Oakland. I don't know. I'm reaching for straws here. I don't know why he was here. I don't care why he was here. I'm just glad that he was here at camp. Let's see. Got another super chat here. This one is from Duncan Wright, our resident Eagles fan hater that likes to remind us that the Eagles are better than us and that they're going to win the division in the upcoming season. Let's see what old Duncan Wright has to say. My guy Duncan, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Writes, was Rager's drop TD Jalen's fault? He's a good QB. No, it wasn't his fault. You know what was Jalen Hurts' fault? That dumbass interception he threw right before halftime. I guess that was Jalen Reagor's fault too, huh? Nah. Like, you can pick out all the plays you want to prove that he's not a bad quarterback. You can say, oh, if guys stopped stepping out of bounds, he would have had 4 more touchdown passes. I don't give a shit, okay? If guys could catch, he might have had 3 or 4 more interceptions as well. I know what I've watched with Jalen Hurts, not just in a Philadelphia Eagles uniform. I watched this guy when he was back at Alabama. I watched him at Oklahoma. I've watched enough Jalen Hurts football to know exactly the kind of football player that he is. He's not going to get much better than he already is. The only thing that he can do to be better is be more prepared, go through his reads faster, deliver the football more accurately. Could he work on those things? Sure. But he's still lacking in other departments. He's still too damn casual with the football. He's going to turn it over at times. And at the end of the day, he's not an anticipator. He doesn't have the strongest arm in the world. There are a lot of deficiencies there that you can't overcome, you know, I don't think, and be an elite quarterback. So we'll see. But hey, look, you can always dream, man. Dream, 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 dream. I'm not going to stop you from dreaming. I'm going to let you sleep. But I'm going to tell you what, we're going to wake your ass up when that dream is complete. Because you ain't winning a goddamn thing as far as we're concerned. But we'll see. You know, we'll see what happens. Okay, so I'm seeing some of your comments regarding Warren Sapp, and seems like Jeff um, uh, Zanina, who is one of the defensive line coaches, um, invited Warren Sapp, and apparently they go way back with one another, and that's who invited Warren Sapp. Again, that makes sense. I couldn't give you the link. I couldn't give you where he tied into this staff, but that makes sense. If he played with Jeff Zanina, then that makes a ton of sense as to why he was invited in the first place and why he was here. Barry Curtis Jr., thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Barry Curtis Jr., thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Writes, am I the only one starting to get worried about this defense? Linebacker is scary. D-line is thin, especially with Chase. Chase's health. Secondary is a question mark. I don't know if you're the only one getting worried about the defense. I think there are people out there that are concerned, about the defense. I'm less concerned than you are. I don't think that the depth on the defensive line is ideal. I agree with you there. But I think from a defensive end standpoint, like you pointed out, Chase Young, I'm not really concerned about the defensive end depth as I am concerned with the defensive tackle depth. We added F.A. Obata in the offseason. So remember, we still have all of the young boys that played last year. So they're going to get a year better, more experience. So, I may talk a lot of shit about Casey Toohill, but Casey Toohill is a year bigger, stronger, and more aware of what's going on in the system. I love what we get out of shucks. James Smith-Williams, JS Dub. I love what we get out of JS Dub. We added F.A. Obata. You still got Casey Toohill. You still got Shaka Toney. You still got William Bradley King. I don't worry about the defensive end depth. Okay, that's not my issue. My issue is defensive tackle depth. They added another guy on that defensive line. I don't know if that, necessarily quells my worries there, but it's depth nonetheless. Linebacker, we've been doing this song and dance for a very long time. It doesn't make it any less stressful, but we haven't had great depth at linebacker for years. So as long as guys are able to stay relatively healthy, it's not that big of a deal. If we start having to tap into that depth, that's when it becomes an issue. I don't think we're done adding depth, particularly at linebacker. And then you get to, did you bring up the secondary? You said it's a question mark. Why is the secondary a question mark? I'm not really looking at the secondary as a question mark. I think that's actually the most stable of the, three lines of defense. I think the back end is actually the most stable of the three units that make up the defensive side of the football. I think you could question the defensive line, specifically the defensive tackle depth. I think you could question, obviously, the depth at linebacker. It might be the thinnest position we have on the football team right now in terms of talent, not bodies, but talent. And then I think the secondary is actually one of the more talented parts and one of the deeper parts. Now, arguably, corner could still use one or two more guys, but they may feel good about Corn Elder. I told you, I probably feel a lot better about Danny Johnson than most. So if you're looking at it from the prism that I'm looking at it with, I see four guys that are on this roster, and William Jackson III, Kendall Fuller, obviously Benjamin St. Juice, and Danny Johnson. So that's four guys right there. I think Corn Elder is probably going to make this football team as a veteran. That's five. And then you add in, Christian, forgot his last name, the seventh round pick. He's going to have a chance to compete, among other guys. for, a spot on this roster. And so at the end of the day, I don't think the cornerback position is all that thin. And then you look at the safety position, you added Percy Butler. Remember, we spent a 5th-round pick last year on Derek Forrest. You're already bringing back Cam Curl, Bobby McCain, and don't forget Troy Apke. He's playing corner now, but he's going to be on this roster whether you like it or you don't like it. And that's a second year playing corner. Maybe he's even better at the cornerback position. Who's to say? Anyway, and then of course you still have my man from a couple of years ago that had to play significant snaps. He got into a collision with De'Ami Brown at practice. That's when Ron got worked up. Why am I blanking on his name? I can see his face too. Shucks. Somebody will say something. Y'all know who I'm talking about. And y'all will say his name. Either it'll come to me or one of y'all will say it in the comment section. I always forget his name. I'm not going to lie. I always forget his name. But he's still there. So we're fine in the secondary. I don't really see why the secondary is a question mark. If we're healthy, we're fine back there. Linebacker, definitely a question mark. The defensive tackle depth, definitely something that, could, have you be a bit concerned. But I don't think defensive end depth is on my list of issues with the defense. I think we're fine. But you are allowed to feel a way about this defense, because until they actually go out and perform at a high level consistently against good and bad teams, I got to see it to believe it. Because I was really gung-ho on Jack. When we got Jack Del Rio, I was excited. I'm like, yes, finally, a guy that gets it. We got a real defensive coordinator in here. I haven't been blown away by JDR's production as our defensive coordinator. And frankly, I'm at wit's end with him. Like, if we don't get the most out of this defense this year, I don't want to hear any excuses. I don't want to hear about lack of communication. I don't want to hear about, guys not being here in OTAs. All that that's no longer a valid excuse. At this point, with Jack, with the talent that we're able to put on the field, I want to see results, and I want to see big results. I'm not just looking for this to be a middle-of-the-pack defense. With the offenses that we're going to play this year, I'm looking for them to dominate some of these teams. And you know what? When we play the better offenses in the league, when we play, Tennessee, who can run it, and Cleveland, who can run it, and Dallas, who has a very balanced attack, when we play these teams, Philadelphia can run it. When we play better offenses, I want to see this defense show the hell up. I'm sick and tired of them only dominating inferior offenses. And when we step up to a superior offense, we get dominated. I'm really looking at Jack and saying, bro, this is it. For me, at least, with you. It may not be it for Ron, and you may be back no matter what. But for me, you want me to still be dialed in on the Jack Del Rio train and still supporting you as a defensive coordinator. I need to see it this year. So I don't know if you're alone. I'm not in agreement with you in terms of the amount of concern that I have. I think my level is way lower than yours, but I think there are some people out there that feel the way that you do about this defense. And I don't have any issues with you feeling that way, because this defense wasn't great last year. Far from it. So I don't have any problems with that. Joe Rockhead J, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Joe Rockhead J, writes, look at all these rumors from Indy every day. Woo, you took it back there. Look at all these rumors from Indy every day. Again, Indianapolis is just dying for a number one wide receiver. They ain't had one since Reginald Wayne out there in them streets. So they're dying for a number one wide receiver. You ain't getting it from us. That's for damn sure. You barking up the wrong mother effing tree, because you ain't getting Terry up off us. That's for sure. And I know, and I think some of the allure of that whole, conversation is the fact that Terry's from Indiana. So it'd be like him going back home and this, that, and the third. But give me a break. We're not trading Terry. damn sure not trading him to Indianapolis, but not trading him at all. So anyway, I digress. Chill Dude, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Chill Dude, writes, like button hit. Mob Squad, sup. Louie T, love. Nice. Appreciate you, Chill Dude, as always. Y'all heard the man. Hit the like button if you haven't already done that. I love to see triple digits already in that department, but over 350 of you are out there watching, so no reason we can't get that number up over 200. So if you haven't hit the like button, please hit the like button and help the kid out. To all the members of the Mob Squad out there, what's up? Y'all know what it is. Stand up. We in the building. Y'all know how we do it. Appreciate each and every single one of you out there. So let me go through some of the Mob Squad comments and hit any of those that may be out there, because I think there may be one or two. And I said I would start acknowledging some of you who make comments that show up in the stream at some point. So let's see. Got a couple here. I want to knock these out real quick. My girl, let's see. Condo P, who has been a member of the Mob Squad for 10 months. Holding the kid down, as always. Condo P. What's up, girl? Right? St. Juice said he suffered 2 concussions last year. And we know of those 2. We weren't sure. And remember, we weren't sure if it was 3 or just the second one was the one that lingered and ended up ending his season prematurely. So it's good to know that it wasn't 3, it was just 2, but it's still 2 nonetheless. So that's always something to keep an eye out for with Benjamin St. Juice. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB for 10 months, Condoleezza Perry. Trevor Patch, my guy Trev, thank you for being a member of the MOBB for 10 months. My guy Trev, holding the kid down. I really do appreciate you. Writes, everyone says money can't buy happiness, but it could buy me a boat. It could buy me a truck to pull it. It could buy me a Yeti 110 iced down with some silver bullets. Yeah, it could buy you a lot of things. And that's, I always get a kick out of people who talk about money, and it's always the people that have money that like to talk about it not being able to buy you happiness. And again, money can't buy you happiness. It can buy you a lot of things. So anyway, I digress. Thank you for that, Chill Dude. Greatly appreciate you. Billy A, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Billy A, writes, John Allen gets all his sacks on collapse hump moves and driving the guard back. If you watch, it's one of his only moves. John Allen, when he does get sacks, a lot of times, it is on a quick, either on a quick swim or it is on a hump move. But rarely is it Jonathan Allen just taking a guy and just beating his ass and collapsing the pocket. A lot of his moves, if you want to be honest, a lot of his sacks come off of twists and stunts. Last year was the first year where Jonathan Allen was just straight up beating dudes right off the snap, like busting some ass. In the past, a lot of his sacks would just come from him being relentless, twist and stunts, where a guard, wouldn't pick it up or pass it off quick enough, and he'd bounce inside of that guy and have a direct path to the quarterback, or just Jonathan Allen being relentless, not giving up on a play. Last year, he would win off the snap, quick swim, boom, backfield, quarterback doesn't even have a chance. Or as you mentioned, that Reggie White hump move where he takes that forearm, tosses him aside, catches a guy sleeping, and he's able to get back there. But rarely is it just Jonathan Allen taking a guy, jacking him up, putting him on skates, and putting him in the lap of the quarterback. He's done that before. Not saying that doesn't ever happen, but I think he had 7.5 sacks last year. Let's look and see. He either had 7.5 or he had 9.5 last year. Let's check out Jonathan Allen and see how many sacks he had last year. He had 9 last year, right? Of those 9, I'd say maybe 1 or 2 came from him collapsing the pocket, bull rushing a dude, and being physical with him. I think a lot more of his sacks came off of quickness, finesse, things of that nature. I thought he did a much better job of using his hands last season, winning with quickness, because that's his advantage. Jonathan Allen is not a big man. I don't know if you've ever seen Jonathan Allen in person. I've had the pleasure of seeing him in person once, but more in particular, anybody that sees him says, oh, he's not that big of a dude. Jonathan Allen is, barely 300 pounds if he's that. Jonathan Allen is like 6'2", probably like 298. On a good day, he's 303, something like that. He's not a huge guy, right? So his thing is not brute force and strength. It's quickness. And we saw that last year. Trevor Patch, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Trevor Patch writes, collapse pocket, turn the corner, chase runs uphill. In order for those guys as an edge rusher, the elite ones will still turn the corner, whether the quarterback can step up or not. But it makes it so much easier on pass rushers when there's nowhere for the quarterback to go. Anybody will tell you, any quarterback will tell you, the worst pressure is the kind that comes from the interior, the one that's right in your face, because there's nowhere to go. Like if you try to vacate running backwards, you're going to run right into a sack. The old Tony Romo escape out the back door, out the back hatch. You turn the pivot to go back door, and here comes Montez Sweat smacking you in your face. So it's hard to escape when that pressure is coming from inside, when that pocket's collapsing. But when there is a pocket to step up in, that those ends, they collapse outside. They end up running into each other a lot of times because they can't run into the quarterback. They can't turn that corner. So the elite ones can turn that corner. Our guys don't often enough turn that corner. So they need the pocket to collapse so that Chase Young and Montez Sweat can get there. I'd like to see more of that this year. So we'll see. Thaddeus Gross, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Thad, thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Writes, Lou was listening to the press today, and it was all good till Heinicke said he spent the offseason improving his arm strength. Improving his arm strength. He says, bruh, you've been in the league for how long? Talk to him, Lou, shaking my head. I didn't laugh at him. I just smiled when he said that. I had a Grinch-like smirk that appeared on my face when he said that he was working on his arm strength this offseason. That's like Chad Pennington, coming back after an offseason of work saying, hey, one thing I wanted to really work on and focus on was my arm strength. Now, his arm is not a wet noodle like Chad Pennington's was, but the point still remains. And I said that to be, tongue-in-cheek. But the point that I'm trying to get across and that Thad is trying to get across is that, bro, you're not really going to do much to your arm strength. And I addressed that earlier in the show. There's not much you can do to strengthen your arm. And he pretty much acknowledged that, look, it's not necessarily my arm that's getting stronger. It's my mechanics that help the ball come out with more velocity. That's essentially what he was talking about. And, and there is some validity to that. You get your mechanics right, and you can add a couple of, a little bit more velo to your passes, but it ain't much, right? It's where that comes into play is on that deep out that he's throwing to the sideline. You get the right mechanics, you get your body weight going into that thing, and you transfer weight properly, and you can get more zip on that pass as that guy's catching it going out of bounds and not allowing that defender to break it up or have a chance to pick it off. Where it's not going to really benefit him, where, arm strength really is on display, is when you got Terry McLaurin streaking 3 yards behind the nearest defender, and he's got to wait for the football because you can't throw it 55 yards in the air. you can only throw it 45 yards in the air. So that thing's hanging up there like a punt. And now Terry's having to fight off 2 defenders that weren't in the picture when you let it go. So, yeah. Anyway, I got a good kick out of that as well. But I didn't kill him for that. I just smiled. That's it. Let's see. Got another super chat. This one is from Big Money Sonny. My guy, Big Money Sonny. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Sonny, writes, who else could it be? What's cracking, Lou? What's good with you, Big Money Sonny? Says, these clowns trying to dissect our record and have no clue. Get them, Lou. Keep sleeping on us. I'm okay with that. We usually do all right when they do. Cherry emoji. So my thing has been and always will be drown out the noise, ignore the noise, clear out the noise, whatever saying fits for you, use it. But I tend to not pay attention to that. So I told you guys, I don't watch a lot of ESPN, Fox Sports 1, NFL Network. I used to watch a ton of NFL Network. I can't tell you the last time my television was dialed into the NFL Network. I can't. So, I don't really, again, a lot of that stuff, I'm not even aware of until you guys bring it to my doorstep. So, to your point, we're better when there are little to no expectations. I hate that's the case, because what that says to me is that when people don't see us coming, that's when we're able to sneak up on them and do damage. But when people are expecting us, we got nothing for them, which means that's the sign of a team that's, as we like to say in our household, weak. That's weak. When you got to sneak somebody, that's weak. When somebody gets beat up and they get punched from behind or they get sneak attacked, you're like, oh, that's weak. You know what I'm saying? But when the dude is looking at you and he's telling you to come on, and then you bust his ass, that's next level. Because I know you coming, I see you coming, and it's still not a damn thing I can do about it. And that's what good teams do. That's what the Packers do. That's what the Steelers do. That's what the Ravens do. That's what the teams that usually make the postseason year in, year out. That's what Buffalo has been doing of late. I see you coming, and I know you're capable of putting this 40 burger on my skull, and it ain't a damn thing I can do to stop you. I'm tired of having to sneak up on teams. Shh, don't tell them we coming. I'm tired of having to sneak around to do damage. So this year it's going to be a sneak around to do damage type of season, because nobody's expecting much of anything from us, which is fine. If we have success this year, no, not if. When we have success, I'm going to go ahead and speak that into existence. When we have success this year, next year, I need us to take the success that we've built upon and use that as a foundation to spawn more success. I need us to have teams know that we're good, know that we're coming, and still beat their ass. And we have, for as long as I've been a fan, we have never been able to that's why we haven't made the playoffs 2 consecutive years in the last 30 years. That's why. Because we don't do it again after we do it once. That's the problem. You do it one year, you can't do it the next. This year is going to be one of those under the radar years. Okay, kick some ass, take some names. And then next year, when those same names come back around like, oh, I remember you from last year. I got something for your ass. You say, oh, do you? Really? Okay, let's see. And then you proceed to do the same thing you did to them last year when they didn't know you was coming, but now they do know you coming. That's when you know you got something. You're working with something. So we'll see. Let's see. Got another super chat here. And this one is from Big Money Sonny. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Big Money Sonny. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Sonny writes, Lou, Wentz, top 5 dead or alive. Don't do that. He says, real talk, thoughts on his numbers this year. The squad expects big numbers this year, brother. Speak on that, please. So I think somebody else had these types of numbers, and I think this was pretty spot on. They said Wentz, 3,600 yards. They said 30, I think it was 30 touchdowns, and it was 13 interceptions, I think was that number. Or it might have been 9. Because, like, this is the funny thing about Wentz. When he's good, when he's dialed in, when he's locked in, he's not a double-digit interception guy. Like, go look at all his years in Philadelphia when he was good. It's 30/6. It's 33/7. It's, last year it's 27/7. And granted, there might have been some dropped interceptions. They didn't catch it. That's not his problem. At the end of the day, when he's taking care of the football, when he's locked in, it's usually not a high interception total for him. The years when he's not locked in, that's when you get 12 or 14 interceptions or 16 interceptions or something like that. So I don't think you get double-digit interceptions from him if he's locked in. And if he's locked in here, I think it's, 3,600 yards, 31 touchdowns and 8 or 9 interceptions, something along those lines. And we can win a lot of football games with numbers like that. If he's in that realm, pushing 4,000 yards passing, up around or over 30 touchdown passes, and under double-digit interceptions, if we're talking about a 4-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio, we going to the playoffs. We going to Sizzlers. We going to Sizzler. We going to the playoffs. Playoffs? I don't like using the P word, especially this time of the year, but if he puts up those kinds of numbers, we going to the playoffs. We going to the postseason. Bonus football for us. So we'll see what happens. Hunter Hodovic, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Hunter Hodovic, thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Writes, sup, T? Sup, Hunter? As a Liberty fan, Liberty fan, I'm praying AGG can make tight end work. I was so excited when we drafted him, and his move to tight end has me excited because that's my favorite position. Fingers crossed. Much love. Appreciate the super chat. And I remember you talking about him, coming out of Liberty and you being a graduate of Liberty or having attended Liberty and the affinity that you had for him and you were rooting for him. So I think this is the best thing for him, this switch to tight end, because clearly it was not working for him at the wide receiver position. And, I could see this turning into a Niles Paul type of experiment where the transition is a success for him. I mean, we've seen other guys do this. And the most notable right now in the league is Darren Waller. Remember, he came into the league as a wide receiver, made the switch to tight end. It took a while for him to finally get his legs underneath him. And it took a change of scenery as well. You remember, he was in Baltimore for a number of years. The Raiders saw him before a game warming up as he was on the practice squad. And the Raiders said, who is that guy? And they promptly signed him. And the rest is history. Darren Waller's been tearing the league a new asshole. And it can be done. It's not easy. And I don't think AGG is Darren Waller by any stretch of the imagination, but he can carve out a niche for himself, as a tight end. It's going to take some work as a blocker, but it can be done. So I'm rooting for him as well. Carlton Pagano Jackson, thank you for the super chat. My guy, CPJ, greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, sending love to the mob and yourself, Lou. Greatly appreciate you as always, CPJ. And thank you to you and yours. Tell the wife I said hello, and appreciate you as always. CPJ, the mob, always sending love your way. Thank you for the support, Carlton Pagano Jackson. Let's see. Red Wings 01. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Red Wings 01 writes, let people make their commie jokes. Come August, Comrade Carson in the Red Army will be rolling through the league like it's Germany in 1945. Look, you're going to hear all the jokes. You heard Law with the commodes and all of that stuff. Look, it didn't matter what the name was. They were going to have jokes. I told you guys that 2 years ago. Whatever the name is, they're going to be jokes, right? People are going to find a way to make fun of it. But you want to stop people from laughing? Kick their ass. It's really simple. The jokes are easy and free-flowing when you're getting your ass kicked. But when you're doing the ass kicking, hey, a lot of the jokes stop. A lot of silence. You know, ain't much you can say when you got a foot in your ass, right? Or a foot on your neck. So, because there's a lot you can say when you got a foot in your ass, like, ah! But when you got a foot on your neck, crushing your larynx, it ain't much you can say. So I'm looking to crush windpipes this year, and we'll see who's getting the last laugh then. You know, that's the hope. We'll see what happens. Big Money Sonny, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Big Money Sonny writes, Lou, I know I get clowned because I respect Jalen Hurts, but you can still pimp out a Corolla. Trust me, I've seen it in them New York City streets, bro. You might be able to pimp out a Corolla. I don't think you're pimping out a 1989 Corolla. You might be able to pimp out a 1998 Corolla or a 2005 or a 2015 Corolla. I don't think you pimping out an 89 Corolla though. Maybe you can, you know, maybe you can, right? I remember every time I saw Alfred Morris's car, it looked the exact same as the way I saw it the first time. Even though it had all these enhancements and all these, you know, because, you know, when you're famous, people like to give you shit for free, which I always think is funny because I'm like, you know, that person can afford to pay for it, but people like to give famous people free shit. And so all these companies came out of the woodworks and wanted to give Alfred Morris this for his car and agreed to give him that, upgrade this and upgrade that. And I'm like, looks like the same exact car that he showed up to training camp as a rookie in 2012 with. But okay, it's just me. So you're probably right about a Corolla. But I didn't see it with his, right? So anyway, I digress. Anyway, Metaphor, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Metaphor writes, rolling down the street, smoking Indo, sipping on gin and juiced. Laid back. You know what it is. We were sipping on a lot of juice last year when he was playing ball. I told you one of the favorite emojis of the MOBB last year was just a simple juice box, and we all knew what it meant, you know. Condo P was the first one to throw that juice box out there, and everybody kind of followed suit. Juice made a play. Hey, throw that juice box in the air, man. You know what time it is. So, you know what it is. We sipping on gin and juice, and we hoping that we sipping on it the entire season and not for just a limited time this upcoming season. Let's see if we got any more supers. Got another super chat here. This one is from Big Money Sonny. My God, Sonny, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, real talk, can we bring Warren Sapp in full time? My apologies if you touched on this. I'm just hyped about that man being in our facilities. We talked about it. I barely briefly brushed over because I don't think he wants to coach. I think he enjoys just going around and, you know, imparting knowledge on some of these young boys out here, you know, from time to time. It's a grind being a coach, especially when you've been a Hall of Fame player. It's not often that Hall of Fame players end up being coaches. They usually leave that for guys that were role players and cogs and, you know, solid players throughout their career. But it's rare to see a Hall of Fame player end up being a coach. When's the last time we saw that? They normally go into the broadcast booth or they end up trying to own a team, or they end up being GMs, things of that nature, but rarely, or some kind of front office role within the organization. But rarely do you see a Hall of Fame player end up being a coach. It's almost as if they feel like that's beneath them. So it's not often you get Hall of Fame players wanting to be in that position because it's a grind. It's taxing being a coach, especially if you're not the head coach. If you're a positional coach, that's rough, man. It is. It's a time drain. But you gotta love it too. If you love football, then it's not work. It's fun to go out there, coach these guys up, and try to get the best out of them. But when you're a guy like Warren Sapp, who's played at the highest levels, been to the mountaintop, played on one of the greatest defenses in NFL history, you're a Hall of Fame player. I don't know if you're trying to be a defensive line coach. I don't know if that's something that you're looking to do with your time every day, So I don't think they're going to bring him in. Or I don't think he's interested in being here full time. But what he is interested in doing is just every now and again peeping his head, and somebody asks him to stop by and imparting some knowledge. And I'm pretty sure he doesn't have any problem. He can doing shit, right? He don't mind doing that from time to time. And that's what he did today. Chill Dude, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Chill Dude, writes, Louie T. Sing, fund Hakuna Matata. It's funny. My nephew used to sing that song all the time when he was a kid from The Lion King. That wasn't my favorite song from The Lion King. Did you guys know? My wife told me this maybe like 5 months ago. And it didn't quite dawn on me until she told me. And then I was like, oh yeah, it did sound like him. Interesting. Did you know that Simba, you need me, from The Lion King was Jason Weaver? I did not know that. I will return. Give me 1 second. Buddy. Hey, wake up here. Hey, it's okay. Hey, buddy. Hey. You want to take a phone? Go get dressed. All right. So, I am going to have to take a rain check, guys. One of my twins is not doing so hot. So, I'm going to, until my wife is ready, she's getting my son ready. We're going to take him to the hospital. Until she's ready, I'm going to keep chopping it up with y'all, but we're going to have to cut this stream short tonight. So I'll just knock out as many of these. Jeremy Reeves is the safety that I couldn't think of his name. I never could think of his name, but Jeremy Reeves is also another safety in that secondary. So I don't think there's an issue with depth. Big Money Sonny, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you as always. My guy Sonny writes, random non-Commanders news, Lou. Yankees still doing their thing, brother. Keep sleeping, Lou. Keep sleeping. I'm not sleeping on your Yankees. They got the best record in baseball. I'm just telling you, until somebody knocks us off, we still the defending World Series champions. That's all I'm trying to tell you. That's it. That's all. That's it. All right. Chill Dude, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Chill Dude, writes, my go-to song is KC and JoJo All My Life. Love to sing. Not a bad song to sing either. Martin Matthews, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Double M, thank you for the super chat. Writes, hey, Louie, how do you feel about Ron saying they might run a 13 or 14 offense? I'm not surprised by that. They want to run the football more this upcoming season. They're not putting 4 tight ends on the field though. But 13 personnel, you know, if they want to be a little bit more physical, they may be able to do that. You ready for me? Okay. They may be able to do that, but they're not putting 4 tight ends on the field. But I could see them, you know, trying to be a little bit more physical. I could see a lot more 22 personnel. I could see a lot more 12 personnel. You might even see some more 13 personnel. I wouldn't be shocked by that. So we'll see. But it'll be interesting to see if this influence of Brian Robinson being here and the 4-game win streak last year, and Ryan kept talking about how physical they were during that win streak, if that kind of carries over into the philosophy, and if there's a philosophical change offensively with, you know, them bringing in 2 guys that are much better as run blockers than they are pass protectors. I don't know. We'll see. Let's get to the next comment. Just Andre, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Just Andre, writes, Khaleke Hudson is being underrated. Look, until he actually gets on the field, and I don't know why he's not getting an opportunity. Clearly, they're not seeing things that they feel like lends itself to him needing more run. So I thought last year was the year for Khaleke Hudson getting on the field and having a better opportunity. You know, I thought he fit the Buffalo nickel, you know, position and role well. He was a Viper at Michigan, which is a hybrid, you know, safety linebacker. He was constantly up around the line of scrimmage. He's shown the ability to be able to run with guys down the field and be a blitzer and all the things that I thought that position entailed, yet he can't get on the field. So clearly they don't love Khaleke Hudson the way that we do. So, you know, it is what it is. Let's see. Barrett Downing, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, BD, as always, holding me down. Really appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOB, who writes, Yo, Lou, start planning that mob reunion because I'm coming. Keep up the grind. Respect. Appreciate that. And again, I told you, I'm going to start trying to get out the house, man. I finally got out the house, attended a Washington event. So hopefully that's the first of many things that I do in my attempts to get out of the house. So anyway, I digress. Appreciate you as always, Barrett Downing. Metaphor, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, Oh, Terry, $25 million for you is never too much, never too much. And it's never too much Luther. You can never have too much Luther on the stream, right? It could be $25 million. I think that's what his agent is aiming for and angling for, is just slightly over the $25 million per year AJ Brown got from the Eagles. I think that's what Terry's agent is angling for from Washington. I think they're trying to get them down. And you know, Terry and company may be at $27 million right now. And Washington's like, what? No, 22. And they're like, nope, they're really trying to get them to 25. And eventually they'll get to 25. I think that's going to be the number. 25 and some change. But we'll see. We'll see. Anyway, see if I got any more supers. Don't want to miss any that I might be able to hit before I get out of here. Good? You sure? Okay. Well, let me know. All right. So my wife, being the road dog that she is, just gave me the thumbs up on being able to stay on. My son is doing a little bit better. We're going to continue to monitor the situation. She told me that she stabilized the situation right now. So we'll just keep, you know, watching him and keep monitoring him. Probably won't get a lot of sleep tonight. That's what it's going to amount to. But it's all good. Always for the kids. So I guess I'm back like cook crack for a little while. And let's see if I have any more super chats. I may not have any more super chats, and we may be getting out of here anyway. Let's see. So a lot of y'all I see were assuming that I was out. So you probably stopped super chatting because you thought I was getting out of here. So If there's anything else you want to say, now, say it now or forever hold your peace. I do not have to go yet. So if y'all want to stay and chop it up, we can. If y'all are done for the night, we can get out of here. And so either way, I appreciate y'all kicking it with the kid tonight. Father's Day is on the horizon. As fathers, a lot of times we get shitted on, and sometimes we deserve it, but a lot of times we don't get the credit that we deserve. And I do have another podcast. I was going to do this on my podcast, but I'll do this here too, because it's some of y'all that don't watch the podcast that need to hear this. If you're a father out there, and I prefer the term dad. I feel like anybody can be a father. It takes a real man to be a dad. Okay. And some people like to say it the other way around. This is why I say it, because just impregnating a woman and your name ending up on the birth certificate makes you a father. You're on more. He doesn't say you're that person, you're the dad. He doesn't say that. You are the father. Okay. You're the father. Okay. Once you help give birth to a child, you are that child's father. You don't have to stick around to be someone's father. In order to get because I feel like dad is a more personal and affectionate name. I think dad is something that means you've earned the right to be in someone's, to have that respect. You've been in someone's life. And you don't have to be that person's real, father to be their dad. You can come in and pick up where someone may have left off or never have been at all, and you can be that person's father figure. But I feel like for the dads out there, this day is for you. And much like the mothers, you should be celebrated every day. But you get one day of the year that they celebrate us. And if you're a dad out there and you're holding it down with your kids or kid, or someone that you look to as a child, whether it's a nephew, a cousin, or a kid that you may have inherited, through a blended family or whatever the case may be, this weekend's for you. Shout out to all the dads out there holding their families down and getting the job done and doing it the right way. So with that said, anyway, got a couple of super chats. Big Money Sonny, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Big Money Sonny writes, "Nah, Lou, I know you respect the money, but go be a dad, bro. Happy upcoming Father's Day." Again, you know what it is. And I appreciate all of y'all out there for your support. And once again, happy Father's Day to all of you out there, to all the real dads holding it down out there. Condoleezza Perry, my girl Condo P, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My girl Condo P writes, "Happy Father's Day to all you amazing dads." Well said. Well said. Couldn't have said it any better myself. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and exit stage left. I'm going to go ahead and see what's going on with the young fella. And so you guys enjoy the rest of your evening. You know what it is. I'm a Washington fan, etched in burgundy and gold. My Washington spirit will never die. Washington spirit will never fold until we meet again. Hail, or as I like to say, post up and take command. You guys have a great weekend. For those of you who do consume the podcast, we will have an episode tomorrow. We'll talk about Game 6, the NBA Finals, among other things. I may throw it back. We did have another contract handed out. Somebody getting some bread. Minka Fitzpatrick just cashed a nice fat check. But I may throw it back tomorrow. We'll see. In any event, enjoy the rest of your evening. And I look forward to talking to you guys. You'll probably get another Washington video because tomorrow is the final day of training camp, or it's training camp, mini camp, mandatory minis, before these guys will be whisked off for training camp. So we won't hear about anything from the players, coaches. They'll have a nice little break from June 16th after that practice to July, whenever minicamp, training camp gets underway. So we'll wrap up minicamp and we'll move forward from there. So then the next thing will be on Terry watch, essentially, when that deal gets done. But in any event, you guys have a great night. Take care. And as always, God bless and good night.